So Captain Kirk with
Yeah. Always talking about Star Trek. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you are doing well out there. Welcome to Counterparts. My name is John Henry Soto, and as always, George Batista is coming to you live from upstate New York, and I'm currently in Nashville, Tennessee. Very excited today. We're going to be talking about the film, the action of film, and we're talking about. I'm going to get a little more specific into auditioning tips and some different things that. By the way, anyway, I'll talk about where you can actually get this information as well when we start our show. But why don't we just start our show first? All righty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Like I mentioned earlier, we're going to be talking about the action of film and all that goes into that industry. As we all know, there's still a strike happening, so there's not a lot of stuff going on, but we're here, and there are independent projects going on that you can go out for that are not SAG or AFTRA, that you don't need to be part of the union for those independent projects. So there's a lot of stuff that you can still be doing. And you should also be working on the craft. There's another thing that I tell people, take a class. There's a lot of workshops online. There's a lot of in-person things that you can do, casting directors workshops and all that stuff that you can still be doing. So we decided, because JHS Talent Management launched on August 31st of this year, and we've been getting bombarded with a lot of wonderful opportunities to talk to some incredible artists, and have had some great conversations to the point where I literally hurt my throat. I was sore from, I think I had 10 appointments within back to back, like in a few days. Not to mention that I do have a day gig where I'm a media manager for an organization, and there's talking there. Not to mention that I talk. And in the show, we do a whole show here. So there was a lot of talking, and it was a very, very exciting. And because of it, we thought, why don't we do something in the film? We've been doing nutrition. We've been doing the overall industry. We did social media. We did a lot of different elements of it. And today we're actually going to be talking about film, a little bit broad, and then we're going to go real deep into auditioning, because I think because of the strike, and because also for the, in the last 2 years, we've had the pandemic kind of took away a lot of auditions, obviously. And people are kind of rusty in auditioning, and I've heard that a lot in different other podcasts that I listen to, and other things other content that I consume. I see that people, they're kind of getting back, and now a lot of people are doing the self-tape, the self-tapes, where they're at home, and it's become a whole other industry now. It's like they're selling specifically for actors kits, where it's got the ring light and the phone holder and the placement, all the stuff that you need in order to do that. It's a place to hold your script. I mean, it's become an actual thing now. But at some point, you do have to get in front of people.
Right.
It's just inevitable, right? You can do, especially now, I think a lot of the industry has, because of the brick and mortar places, they realize, we don't need all this space anymore, because we're doing a lot of self tapes, and we can narrow that down to our top 15 that we love, or that we like, or that we want to see. And then those, we can rent a room for a day or 2 days, and we can see all those people, and then we narrow that down, and then we'll come back again and have another. It's much cheaper. It's much more economical for studios, especially with a lot of the money going to, superhero movies and big budget things. The smaller projects, are harder to cast. So anyway, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Cool. I had questions. Well, I have questions.
questions.
I got questions about this. Just
Columbo.
curious, and again, coming at this from a layperson, like it's first of all, it's interesting that the industry, now that I think about it, really took a hit twice because you had COVID once, and then now you have the strike. So
Yeah.
that's really two things that have damaged the
Yeah.
industry. But what
And the
what I was
writer's strike too. The
no,
writer's strike, which
exactly
got resolved or somewhat resolved, but
semi-resolved. But do you
semi-resolved.
think like a person doing a self-tape? I mean, you've been on tons and tons of auditions, right? A person doing a self-tape, how do you get the same effect as versus a person who would actually do their first audition live or in front of actual people?
You wouldn't, because you're taking away a lot of the elements of live auditioning, right? You're
Right.
taking away the nervousness of sitting in the room with
Right.
40 other people that look just like you. You know, not too many look like me, but you know, if they were looking for like a short guy, well,
Mhm.
you know, I'm a room full of short people, and I've walked into rooms with you know, a lot of guys that are like my height, and it's really weird. You know, people like yelling out "ding dong," what just that? It's not nice. It's not nice,
Hey, when
people.
that happens.
I hate that. But you know, that part of it is taken away.
Yeah.
You know, so now you're home, but it's it's bad either way, right? Because now you're home. Now who's directing you? You are. So you're your own director now. So now you have to kind of find a way to try to find the best way to deliver this, right? What
Mhm.
choices are you going to make? Whereas when you're in a room and you know and you deliver your you know your first read, the casting director might be like, you know, or the director's there, the producer, whoever is there, and say, you know what, I like that, but why don't you try it this way?
Mm,
You know, and they'll give
mhm.
you this little note, and then you take that note and then they get two things from that. They get a different interpretation of the actual scene, and they also get, can this actor take notes well? Are
Ah,
are
okay.
they directable? You know, because that's a whole other side of it that kind of gets lost when you're just self taping. Now, with self taping, you do have the opportunity to do a lot of different takes.
Okay.
You can do a lot of takes, and then you can show it to people,
Right.
show it to your friends, or maybe you have a casting director who's a friend who would be willing to look at it for you, you know, and you can, so
Mhm.
you have that benefit. Whereas when you're live, that's your moment. That's it. You're not gonna get asked back again. Once they say thank you for coming, you can't be like, oh, can I just do it again? I think I could do it better. Because if
Yeah.
you do that, you're done.
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah. So that's the that's on that. But auditioning overall is a weird thing anyway.
Mm.
You know, I take this thing that a guy from, I feel so bad when I can't remember their names, because the documentary was based on actors that you don't remember their names. So the documentary was actually called "That Guy That Was in That Thing."
Oh, I'd heard of that. Yes.
Yeah, so and so anyway, the guy that was in that thing, that guy that was in that thing, he actually had a really good, you know, way of looking at the auditioning, you know, and he basically said, you know, you can walk into the room and you can remind the casting director of your brother-in-law who he hates,
Right.
or you can walk into the room and remind the casting director of his brother-in-law, which he loves.
Sure.
So either way, you have no idea what you're going to get on the other side of the table with a live audition. Also, you know, reading sometimes a script with no context behind it, because sometimes they only give you what's called sides,
Mhm.
and they just give you a page with some of the lines. You don't know where this character's been. You don't know where he's going. You don't know anything about the script. You know, most directors, they won't send you the whole script unless they're really considering you and they really think that you're the one, you
Okay.
know, or if they offered you the thing and you just want to read for a producer or something.
Mhm.
But, you know, they're not going to give you the whole script. So you're going in, you have no idea. So if you're delivering a line and you realize, oh, 10 pages earlier, this guy was shot in the leg.
But they don't even, so and I'm curious about that because so you go in cold like that.
It's
They
not.
won't
I
even
mean,
get
it's not.
they,
You get a script,
right, but they
but it's
don't
not
give
a
you like
full script. It's
they
only a
never
piece
give
of
you a
it.
little bit of a backstory on what
They
they have.
might,
Okay.
but during this, when you get this and you get an email and you look at you look at it and you're reading it, it's just what's on the paper.
Wow.
They
Okay.
might say like, this is the story of a man who's struggling with this and he's struggling with that, and this is the conflict. That might, you might get that much of it, but when you're going in, also because the delivery of that performance of that moment in the film, right, is predicated on what occurred,
Yeah.
a few minutes earlier. He may
Mhm.
be coming into the door from an argument that you didn't know about. You
Right.
just and now you're in the scene and you're like, hey, so anyway, I did, why would you act that way if you just came from an argument? So they don't tell you that. Now, sometimes when you go in the room, the casting director and of course they'll tell you, okay, so just so you know, the actor, this character came into the scene from, he was in a gunfight. So he's torn up, he's shaking, and then you'll be like, oh wow, I did not know that. I
Right.
would have, and so you'll get notes like that which are helpful, and then sometimes if you're looking at the scene, maybe it's not even needed in there. Maybe
Mhm.
you don't really have to know. Maybe it's a simple scene of, maybe it's a five liner, what they call a five liner, like on those TV shows,
Mhm.
the cop shows, where
Law
it's
and Order.
usually where the cop goes to a grocery store and they'll say like, hey, you seen this guy? Yeah, I saw that guy. He came in here earlier today. He bought like a few things and then he just ran out, didn't even pay. Really? Yeah, and that girl he was with was really upset. What girl? You know, that is a five liner. And so you might not even need that because it's a grocery street owner who's getting questioned by the cops
Mhm.
for law and order or for SVU or one of those things. And you're like, oh, okay, I know what this is.
Yeah, of course.
And it gives you more of that. But you can't really always rely on that with feature films. You know,
Okay.
yeah. You have another question?
No, no, go ahead.
I think you're taking notes.
No, I am taking notes.
All right. So since we talking about auditioning, I'm going to do some audition. I'm going to do 10 audition tips, and I'm going to go over a few other things that are important for. There's a lot of different ways to look at it, right? When you're
Mhm.
auditioning, right? And so I'm gonna go down the list here. This is gonna be quick. And then you can ask any questions as they come up, all right? And
Sure.
by the way, if anybody's on, you're watching, you have a question on auditioning, and let's say you've never auditioned, you're just interested, you've always thought to yourself, man, I always feel like I could really play a role. I could be an actor. I think I could do that. If you really felt that deeply, you can. I mean, it's just a matter of taking that first step and figuring out the path, right? And studying, and you have to do it for the right reasons. You have to do it because you want to create, you want to produce something, you want to create a character, you want to be a storyteller. And if that's you, then ask me a question here or send me an email. Did I put my email here? I think I did now, right? Yeah. Well, you can all, no, not an email because it's not email, it's calendar. Make an appointment. But anyway, if you go right here to jhstalentmanagement.com, and there's a calendar on there, you can see what days are available. Put your stuff in there, and then I'll be more than happy to talk to you about the journey about becoming an actor.
Did your I got a question. When you got into the industry, was it first was your first inkling to actually be in front of the camera, or was it behind the camera first?
It was always in front to
Okay.
start, and but I also did know that I would be behind the camera as well, probably more so. But I always knew in the beginning I wanted to be in front of the camera. How I grew up. I'm kind of a funny guy sometimes, and um, I've always my mom always pushed me into entertainment. When I was a kid, she we were on walking by Rodney Dangerfield's, the
Mm.
comedy club in New York, and so she's like, hey, she's like, John, you can go. There's a comedy club there. You can go in there. And I'm like, Mom, I'm 12. I don't think they're not gonna let me go in there right now. But comedy is something that I love. to watch, but cannot imagine me doing. Like it terrifies me. But I love comedy, and it's not that it terrifies me that I don't think I can do it, but because it's. I had a friend who worked at Stand Up New York
Mm,
Comedy Club, and I would go pick her up at night, like late at night. This was way before I was married, and she worked till like 2 o'clock in the morning. So we walk. We lived up. I lived about 10 blocks away, so I would walk and go pick her up every night, and I would sit in the back and watch all the comedians. Right,
right.
hilarious comedians. Some incredibly blue comedian, like very very dirty comedians, but very very funny comedians too. And I remember this one moment, and I was sitting in the back, and there was a guy sitting at the bar, and he was kind of like this, talking to a girl, kind of like, and then they said, "Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Schmo," right? And he kind of just takes a drink, and he gets up, and he goes up, and I'm like, "Wait, that's him," and he just gets up on the stage. He's hilarious for about
Wow.
5 minutes. He kills for about 5 minutes. He gets off, and he goes back down.
Like another day at the office, you know?
Yeah, and I just thought to myself, because I consider it. I've even wrote out like 3 minutes of things that I thought were funny, to
Mm,
deliver and stuff. And I've kind of I've tested that in my head,
right.
but I thought really, how I am about wanting to do new things.
Yes. It wouldn't surprise me if you called me and said, "Dude, I'm headlining a comedy club."
Yeah, no, but you can't do that because in order to be a comedian, and I've watched all the Seinfeld's, his interviews, and he is like a master of wording everything, right?
Right.
And he writes everything by hand still, and I just love the process that he talks about, and all the comedians, Nate Bargatze also is another one. They talk about the process and the years and the years and years you have to put in
Yeah.
to just develop a voice, that would resonate, and that you also keep your cool, because you're going to get hecklers. You're always going to get hecklers, right? There's a lot of alcohol involved. People are going to say stuff, right?
True.
So that was one of the things that I always thought, I don't know if I can take the consistency of the same thing over and over again. I like film because film is always a different set,
Right. Right.
different stories, different actor. I love music because it's always, I can create my own leads every time I'm playing. I create something different, so
True.
there's that element. But I do love comedians like Brian Regan and Jerry Seinfeld and Nate and Dusty Slay and Brian Bates and Aaron, the guys from all the guys from Nateland,
Mm,
Aaron Webb, Aaron Weber. So all those guys, I love them. I respect what they do because it's hard.
Hmm.
Yeah, but to answer your question in a very long ass way, yeah, I wanted to originally be in front of the camera, and
Interesting.
it was also because, and not to get too depressing here, but after we lost Dave, Dave was our guitar player, but he was more than that. He was our friend. He was like a brother
Mhm.
to us. We loved each other like brothers. We fought like brothers. We drank like brothers. We went out like we played on stage. We had such a wonderful time. And after we lost him, I was so empty
Right.
creatively
Yeah.
that I dove into acting and I dove into auditioning and I dove into that because I put the guitar and everything away. I didn't play for quite a long time, and I just really got back just a year ago, really playing. I think this year was the first time I played in front of people in about 15, 16 years. So that was really also a big reason why I also dove in as heavy as I did,
Sure.
auditioning wise. So auditioning is, like I said before, it's a weird thing, but there are some things that you can take responsibility for and at least give yourself a chance to be there. The only way to get really comfortable with auditioning is to do a lot of it. It's the same way with playing live. It's the same way with public speaking. It's the same way with dating. It's the same way with doing what George and I are doing now, the live stream. We are live right now. Anything could happen right now. When you first start, you're like, oh, and then, and then kind of goes away, and then you realize you're just having a conversation right now. Right. So all those things, but you do it a lot and you prepare as well. So we prepared a lot in the beginning and probably over prepared. Right. But
Mhm.
now sometimes I'll show up here, I'll print out 2 sheets of paper because I know what I'm going to talk about. I'm confident enough that I can deliver what I want to talk about. And so the preparation is really good. So that's number one. Be prepared. So know your lines, the role, and any relevant background information about the production. Being prepared shows professionalism and respect for the casting directors and other people involved. And by the way, all this information, I have pages of stuff that I wrote that I delivered to my at JHS Talent Management. Any actors that we sign will have access to all this stuff, and we'll also do, we'll also talk about it as well. So this is, you can get all this stuff through the and we're gonna have on the website, we're gonna have a special page where you can go and download a lot of these things for free. You can get these, and they're simple. They're not, because you don't have to overkill things. If you make it too complicated, what's the thing that Einstein says, right? If you can explain it to a 5-year-old, if you can't explain it to a 5-year-old boy, then you don't know it yourself, right?
Exactly.
You have to be able to explain it, so be prepared.
Yeah.
Know your lines, right? Number two is dress the part. So your appearance should be in line with the character you are auditioning for, but not a full-on costume. If you're playing a cowboy, for the love of God, do not wear a full cowboy. You can bring a hat, and that's it. If you know what I mean. Maybe not even have a hat and just hold a hat, and maybe a pair of jeans and just the way I'm dressed right now, jeans and a t-shirt and a little cowboy hat will kind of change. Will give you that view that they're looking, that understanding. If you show up with full cowboy outfit, no muy bueno. You want the casting director to see you as a blank canvas they can work with, but giving them a hint, you can help them visualize you in the role. But giving them, and also give them a hint of, like, you know what I mean? Like, give them enough that they can see the character, but also enough that they can play with.
Right.
Be like, you know what? I don't like the hat he has there, but I like the fact that he's holding it, or he's wearing it, or I like the color, that color of the shirt, whatever it is. So yeah, definitely dress the part. Number three, and this is like, this is like such an important thing. Punctuality. If your audition's at 10 o'clock, do not set your travel time so you can arrive at 10 o'clock. This is what people do. It's like, no, it takes me 30 minutes to get there, so I'm going to leave here at 9:30. Why would you do you think nothing can happen on New York City subway as you're traveling? You think nothing is going to happen? It could be a delayed. If it's a 5-minute delay, you're 5 minutes late. You know what's 5 minutes in the world of entertainment? It's a lot. It's a lot. They do not like that. So what I always did was I would get to auditions sometimes 15 minutes early, 20 minutes early, where I wouldn't go into the place, because that's another thing that I wanted to say also, that don't show up 30 minutes early. Don't do that either. If you show up 30 minutes early, don't go in. Walk around the block and go to a coffee shop. What I would do is, there was always I used to audition a lot on usually 34th Street to 39th Street and 9th Avenue and 8th Avenue. There's a lot of places there for auditioning stuff, like Law and Order stuff used to be at Chelsea Piers. Right. So, if you show up early, go to a coffee shop and wait 5 minutes. 5 minutes into the audition, you show up. You're like, "Hi, I'm here for my 10 o'clock." You fill out you sit down. But make sure. So it says arrive early enough to fill out any necessary paperwork. Warm up and focus yourself mentally. Being late is unprofessional and stressful, and you want to be at your best. That's another thing. If you do leave and give yourself that 30 minutes, and you get there and you're going to be late, and you're running, and it's New York City summer, June, and it's 90 degrees, you're going to show up like you've been smoking crack all weekend. And you're not going to look your best. You're going to be out of breath, and they're just going to look at you like, this is a mess. I don't even want this guy on my set, or gal on my set.
Are auditions generally, like, I mean, I guess it's different for every situation, but are they generally like on time? So when your thing is at 10 o'clock, is it usually 10 o'clock, or are you typically waiting?
You don't know, because some places you can show up at 10 o'clock and they don't see you till 10:15 because somebody's running late.
Gotcha.
And you know what I mean? But that It doesn't matter. Always show up for your time. So this way, when you sign in the book,
Mm,
you can write the time in on the book.
okay.
So, and they'll know if they seeing you. If they're seeing you later, it's on them. But they don't care because they're seeing a bunch of people. You know what I mean? And
Right.
sometimes people get delayed. Or they get delayed, or they take a little bit longer with somebody because they really like that person.
Oh, okay.
They'll be like, I want you to stay, do this again, and next thing your audition is cut short,
Sure.
or they know they found their person, so they're just looking at you just because you're there, but they know you're not the one anyway, and you kind of sometimes have the feeling, and then you walk in and you're like, you don't want me, right? And then but you do your audition anyway, and you do the best you can, and then you walk out. Thank you very much. And you leave.
But you would think just on that little point, even if you don't think you're gonna get, let's say you think, okay,
Oh,
they
don't
found their
ever.
person, but right, that's the right
Always.
because you would think that
It's
the
a site.
person
It's a mind game.
it's a mind game, right? That the person would be like, oh, but no, you go in there even
No,
like if
you
you were
have to
gonna
go in
get
there.
it, right?
Yeah,
Because and
100%.
it also gives you the reps, right? Gives you the
Yes.
practice to do it, but it
Yes.
also helps the psyche
Yeah.
in general.
I always say this is a little tip from me. I didn't write this down, but I just thought of it, and I think it's a good idea. I am going to write that down because when you get to an audition, if you're a little bit early, try not to get there too early where you have to sit down in the waiting room,
Right.
because sometimes these rooms are very close. The door is right there for the audition, and you're hearing
Oh, you're hearing.
the
Okay.
other guy's
Okay.
audition. So
Right.
now you're thinking,
Yeah.
oh no, I don't want to do it like that. I was thinking of doing it like that. Or should I do it this way? Or you want to have as little connection to anyone as possible until you walk in that room. You want to have your own choices that you've decided to make,
Right.
whatever they are, whether they're good or bad. You made those choices. Don't be influenced by other choices. Another tip: when you're sitting in the audition room and there's a lot of people, there's some of these people, they know their lines already, and maybe you're still kind of like working on a few things. They'll start talking to you. Yeah. Oh, so do you audition here a lot? Yeah. Have you been? Yeah. I just came from this audition over there. It was so crazy. Do you know this guy that was? And next thing, now you're in a conversation. And they're like, John Henry Soto. What? Oh, and now
And
you got to
you're
go in, and you're like, oh,
yeah,
I don't remember. I was. I
you're
was
totally off. Right.
I
Right.
don't have
Right.
this. I'm off.
Yeah.
So what I used to do, I used to be like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. No, I haven't been there. No, can you? Can you, can you get the? But yeah, no, seriously, it becomes a mind game, and you get
Interesting.
really screwed. So okay, so yeah, so that's a side note. Um, be respectful is number 4 here. It says this includes being polite to everyone, and so don't do what I just did to the person in the waiting room. This includes being polite to everyone, not just the director or the producers. You never know who has input in the casting decision, and being easy to work with is a big plus in any role.
Mm,
So an example of that is I did some casting. I was helping with the production doing casting. I was also in the film too, but they also asked me to help with casting. So I was in the room
mm.
as I was coming up the elevator, right, to go to the room, to the casting place. What happened? I just see you laughing.
These thoughts in my head, forgetting. Keep going.
I've known
I have,
George.
I
I've
have
known George
jokes.
for such a long
I
time.
have jokes
I
that I
know
just
all
don't
his
want to. I
faces.
don't want. I don't want to
I
say
know
right
all
now.
his faces.
So
I
go
know
ahead. Keep going.
So I'm like, what's happening? All right. So what was I saying? Oh yeah. So so I was in the elevator and this
Okay.
woman walks in, and she was walking in, and she asked me a question, and I told her where to go,
Mm,
you know, for the audition. There was an audition. Now I didn't know at the time. She said, "Where are they holding the auditions?" And I was like, "Oh, it's on the 6th floor. It's always on the 6th floor." So I said, "Oh, it's on the 6th floor." So I don't know. Most places, for some reason, it's always been on the 6th floor.
interesting.
So it's on the 6th floor. She said, "Oh, okay, thank you." I was like, "You're welcome." So we get out and we go into the place, and she's one of the ones auditioning for us, and she's like, "Oh, I
Mm,
just saw you in the elevator." And in my head, I thought, there's a good opportunity. She was very polite, She was
Right.
very nice. She was, you know what I mean? If you know, she might, if any kind of conversation would have gone on that was would have would have been nasty to any director or anybody, and then you both walk in and there you are, they've already
That's the
casted you
worst.
out,
That's the worst.
right? So be very respectful to everyone you meet. You don't know who's who and who's working in certain areas, right?
Right.
Number five is take direction. Often you'll be given adjustments to your performance, which I talked about earlier, right?
Mhm.
This is not a critique, but rather an opportunity to show your ability to take direction and adapt. This is what I was saying before. Like when somebody gives you a note, they say, you know, why don't you try it this way or whatever? Take the note and be like, okay, that doesn't mean that they didn't like what you did. It
Sure.
means that what you did didn't fit what they wanted. They
Mhm.
want you to, they want to adjust it. And a director is called a director
Right.
because they direct the actors in through the scene. They
Yep.
also keep track of where an actor was to where they are now and where they're gonna be, right? They have to keep track of all those things. So, and if they see that you took the note, you know, and you did a really good job taking the note, then they'll think in their heads, they'll write it down. Trust me, they will. I've seen it happening. I've been on the other side also, and you'll see the director takes notes well, or gave me a weird look when I gave him a direction. They'll write it down.
Wow.
They'll
Okay.
write it down. Gave me a weird look when I gave him when I gave him what do you call it, an adjustment, right? They call them adjustments. They call them a note. They'll call it yeah, mostly it's adjustments. They'll call it, right. So if you get an adjustment, be like, oh, okay, great, thank you, all right. And then afterwards you're like, yeah, thank you for that adjustment. Actually, I did feel better on that. Thank you so much. You know, and then leave. I'll talk a little bit about
But
that
you would think, I guess you have to go in with the mindset, because you would think that even if you do get cast for something, right? And even when you're filming something, sometimes they're still adjusting stuff, right?
oh,
Sometimes they're
up to the
constantly
moment, up to
right.
the
They're
moment.
constantly changing. Sometimes a scene can change from all
Yeah,
of a sudden you had it all planned out and you
yeah,
realize, wait a minute, this looks better than what
yeah,
I was thinking of, right?
within the scene itself. Because
Right.
remember, you know, a lot of times, like I've seen this also through um Ron Howard. He did a
Mhm.
master class through, you know, those master classes things, which I watched, which was great. His
Right.
was, I think, the best out of all the ones I've seen. His
Wow.
was the best, because he actually went on set and he directed a scene. And then while he was directing, he went to the camera. Okay, you see what I did right there? I gave him a. So
Ah,
it's like gold.
that's cool.
It's like
That's
seeing
really
an
cool.
Academy Award winning director directing as it's happening, and it was an
Right.
actual scene for something, you know. So it was really cool. But yeah, you know what? So what he does is even during there, he goes, you know what? I don't like the way you came in this way. Why don't approach him this way? And you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you're still
Always.
adjusting
Yeah.
all the time, and the director has the vision, and of course with the cinematographer who's capturing that vision, right? They got
Mhm.
to work closely together to make sure that they get the right shot, and that what the director is feeling and seeing, the
Mhm.
cinematographer has to capture. You
Interesting.
know, yeah. So that's definitely important to take direction. Show versatility, right? That's really important too. If given the opportunity, show range in your performance. Casting directors like to know that you can adapt to different situations or emotional states as required by the role.
Mhm.
So this was a film that I was that I was directing once, and I had an actor that was too angry in the scene, and for some reason, I don't know, he thought that he was supposed to be angry at this other actor,
Mhm.
and he wasn't. It was just you know, like two close friends that know each other really well,
Yeah.
that they already know us. And you know, you don't want to be like, come on, I told you this is not what I want. You know, you don't want to be like that. You're just gonna be like, come on, man, you know, we've
Mhm.
been through this before, right? Let's just stop. You know, it's more of a relaxed delivery. So
Sure.
I remember trying to get that, you know, to convey that. And then once that we had a conversation, he showed me he could do that really, really well. You know,
Mhm.
he could do angry, he could do the exactly what I wanted, almost sympathetic,
Right.
almost comic in a comic way, you know, be sympathetic, but comically.
Right.
And so, yeah, so that's very important to show versatility, that you can give them different ranges, you know, and
Okay.
that makes them, it makes their job easier because they can say, you know what, give me a little bit more or give me less.
Okay.
Right? Like Robert De Niro always says, give them less. He says, when you think, when you think of it, give less. If they want more, they'll ask you for more.
Mhm.
But in life, people don't talk like this in life
True.
unless they're like manic, right?
Right.
Or their characters on drugs or something, right?
Yeah.
But so Robert De Niro is always, his performances are always like this, and he kind of just he just delivers lines like this. That's kind of like what he
It's
always does.
amazing though. Eh?
And but then he gets mad. He's like, "What? No, no, okay, okay. If that's what you, okay." It's very very chilled out. But if they want more, they'll give him more. He'll give more. Um, and he's one of my favorite. If you haven't seen The Irishman,
Mm.
watch The Irishman. There is a scene in The Irishman in the Howard Johnson's, and not to give it away, but if you haven't seen it, I don't care. But it's a scene with Joe Pesci and Robert De Niro, and Joe Pesci's character is telling Robert De Niro's character that he has to go do something that he does not want to do. It's a terrible thing, and Robert De Niro's performance in that one scene. He has like no lines. He has no lines. He's literally just looking. It is unbelievable how much he communicates with his face during that scene. Like, I watched that scene so many times. I know that I've actually shot scenes from that on my own, playing both
Right.
characters.
I did see that.
Yeah,
Yeah, I did
because
see
I
that.
loved some of those performances. They were so incredible. But yeah, watch that for reference on like how doing less can be incredibly powerful. Another thing is, if you look at The Godfather, remember in the scene they're telling Michael, when Michael is kind of trying to convince everybody, like, who says you can't kill a cop? Come on,
Right.
he goes, come on, Mikey. He's like, no, no, we're talking about a crooked cop who
Mm.
got in the rackets and got what he's coming to him. He goes, we got people on the payroll, right? He goes, that makes a good story, right? And then the other guy, and then Duval goes, yeah, it might be a good story. And then there's a real moment where Michael Al Pacino looks at the camera. It almost looks like the camera froze,
Mm.
like the film froze. He's just
Mhm.
like, it's not personal, Sonny. It's just business. And those moments when you can deliver
Wow.
that with your eye is so powerful, man. And then it's anyway. I can go on. I'm a big dork. So show versus number 7 is make strong choices. So this is actually what I was talking about earlier. If you're in the waiting room and you're hearing the other auditions go back and forth, let's say you're like number 5,
Mm.
and now you got to hear 4 auditions, ahead of you, and they're all different. Now you're all screwed up.
Yeah.
Make strong choices. If you're gonna make a choice, stick to it. If it's a good choice, awesome. If it's not, you go to the next audition. It's a gamble, right? Basically just you're gambling, right?
Yeah.
Um, an example for that is Danny DeVito when he was auditioning for Taxi.
Mm.
He walks in as Louis De Palma, right?
Mm.
And
Mm.
he walks in and he's got the script in his hand, right? And he's like, "Who wrote this shit?" He says. He says, like, "Who wrote this crap?" And the whole place just tears down. Like, this is nothing. This is horrible. Whoever wrote it, and the rest is history, right? Because he
Wow.
walked in. Now he made a choice,
Yes.
because if he would have made that choice and the people on the other side were like, didn't
He
like
was
it,
he
he
was
would
dying on that hill. He was like, that was it. That was the choice he was making. They either take it or leave it.
That's a perfect way of putting it. He was dying on that hill. He just decided, I'm going to go for this.
Right.
I'm going to
Right.
go for it. And then whatever happens, happens. And, there's a lot of stories on that. You can hear actors that have taken that risk,
Yeah.
and some that have succeeded and some that just didn't, it
Right.
just didn't work, but you have to make that strong choice because you never know. And also that choice is yours.
Yes.
So that's what's going to bring you to the table because you're a unique individual, right? So, it'd be better for you to really say something like, that's not that you, if you listen to another guy in there and you're like thinking, oh, maybe I'll do it. Well, then if you do it like that guy, that's not you anymore. You're done.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you got Edward. Hey, what's up, Edward? Hey, good stuff, guys. Taxi, by the way, one of my favorites. Oh man,
Yes.
Taxi is one of the great shows, and the actors on it. Judd Hirsch a brilliant actor.
Yep.
Ted
Yep.
Danson was fantastic. The other guy, he passed away. What's his name? He played the actor. Bobby, I think was.
Oh, Bobby. Yeah, yeah. What was his? I forgot his
Yeah, I
name.
forgot his name. Conway, something Conway.
Something. Yeah,
Jeff
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Conway.
Yeah.
Jeff,
Yes.
I think Jeff
Jeff
Conway. I think
Conway. It could. Yeah, it could have been Jeff
something like
Conway. I
that. Yeah,
remember it was Conway,
and of
but
course Leonard Nimoy, and of
Leonard
course,
Nimoy.
I mean Leonard Nimoy.
He was on Taxi. He's like, live long and prosper, Louis De Palma.
Leonard,
Leonard Nimoy. I love
Nimoy.
William Shatner was on there.
He was the
I knew
best.
we'd come back to Star Trek somewhere.
Yeah, it always comes back to Star Trek.
No,
Like Christopher Lloyd.
Christopher Lloyd. Yes.
Yeah, so of course he was brilliant in that role, and then you had Andy Kaufman as well.
Mary
So
Lou
yeah,
Henner.
I mean the and what was her name?
Mary Lou Henner.
Mary Lou Henner. She was fantastic
Yep.
and gorgeous.
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, great show, definitely. Yeah, Jeff. Yeah, it was Jeff Conway. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's make strong choice. So it says make bold, clear choice about how to play your character. It's better to make a strong impression, even if it's not exactly what the director had in mind, than to be forgettable.
Mm-hmm.
I've made some choices that have tanked.
I love I always remember, was it you that told me the story of what's his name? Oh my god. Marlon Brando, when he was auditioning and he came in his gown and his robe or something, and he came.
Oh yeah. I'll tell that story.
Yeah, that's a great story.
It's Edward says he came to me in a dream years before he died. Oh wow. I tell you, he was one of those guys. Andy Kaufman was buried here. Wow.
Oh,
Yeah,
he was buried in Long Island. That's interesting.
Yeah. Or is he? Some people think because he was such a prankster. Some people did not believe. As a matter of fact, Danny DeVito said at his funeral, he's sitting there with Rhea Perlman, his wife at the time,
right,
sitting there, and after the ceremony was over, he turns to her and he goes, "Any moment, he's gonna come out.
He's gonna pop up.
He's gonna pop up, and I guarantee you, he's gonna." He said that. That's what he thought.
Wow, that's crazy.
So crazy, wild stuff. But the Marlon Brando story was that what happened was nobody wanted Marlon Brando for The Godfather.
Right.
He was too much of a risk. So they said the only way that he could get in that film was that he has to put up $1 million bond to be in the film. He has to put it. It's like a security blanket that they have to put in, right? And because they said he was too risky, he was too unpredictable, you couldn't direct him, and blah blah blah. But Francis Ford Coppola was like, no, he's our guy. I want him in the movie, right? So he goes to see him, and he brings a little video camera, little film crew to kind of film. And he comes down with what do you call those, Komodos, I guess.
Yeah.
Kimono. He comes with one of those tied. His hair is tied in a bun. It's white, and it's all tied in a bun and stuff. And he comes in, and he's like, "Hey, how you doing?" He doesn't talk like that, but he's like, he's talking to Francis, and they start filming him, and he grabs shoe polish.
Yeah.
Now, this is you talk about bold choices. He takes the shoe polish and he puts it on, darkens his hair all the way black. He takes cotton balls and he puts them in his mouth. And he says, well, he was shot in the throat when he was younger, so he thinks he still has problem talking.
Right.
So that's why he talks like this. And he did that, and then he just went on camera, and Francis Ford Coppola showed it to the studios, the studio heads, and they were like, no, he's too much show. They're like, oh, that's interesting. Okay, and he never ended up paying the $1 million bond. They just forgot about it, and of course the rest is history, right? Wow. But yeah, those are bold choices.
Exactly.
I'm gonna put black shoe polish on my head and then stick cotton balls in my mouth. Now, granted, he was still Marlon Brando at the time. He was already a legend.
Sure.
But still, that could have been where Francis walked out and he goes, yeah, no, he put shoe polish on his head, cotton in his mouth, and then he started talking with this weird way, so I got out of there.
But the fact that he even thought of doing that,
I know,
that's what
kills now.
Right.
Like, how many people, when they're imitating anything having to do with the mafia, go like this?
Right. Yeah.
Right? It's because it became so iconic, right?
Exactly.
Crazy. So yes, make strong choices. Number 8 is manage anxiety. So Nerves are normal, but excessive anxiety can sabotage your audition.
Of course.
Breathing exercises, visualization, which is what I did a lot of,
Valium.
and other yeah, crack, um, and other relaxation techniques can help you stay focused and calm. So, drinking a lot of coffee beforehand is bad.
Mhm.
You know, doing the breathing exercises is really important. Like I would always do the three breath, and it's through the nose. You know, don't go not like that.
Right,
You
right,
through the nose. You know, you close your mouth and you
right.
do three. I will do them in the elevator, and then as I'm sitting there, I'll do three more, and and it really does work coming down. Now, visualization is the what I would do is I would visualize myself already there in the room. I would have people there. I don't know what they look like yet because I haven't stepped in the room, but I know that there are people there. I look at it. There's a mark that you stand on. You have to do a thing called slate. Slate is when they tell you ask your name and your whatever the role you're
Mhm.
applying for, and you know the camera's going to be there, and you just visualize you there with the lines and not looking at the paper. Make sure you know your lines, right? That's the important thing when you go in for an audition. Know your lines.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
don't walk in with the paper in your pocket.
Mm.
Don't walk in like, hi, so okay, you know what I mean? Walk in with with it like either wrinkled in your pocket. You don't have it. You just walk in without it. I just shot a thing, not to like toot my own horn, but I just shot a thing in Kentucky, and I knew my lines, and it was kind of pretty good size, dialogue and stuff. It was all me. It was a big room full of people just staring at my little ass. So I was I walked in without a script at all, and the director was like, "Okay, do you need a script or anything?" I was like, "No, I'm good." He's like, "Oh, okay." He was like, "All right." We did it. One take, got the whole
Wow.
thing done, got applause right afterwards. Then
Wow.
I did another take, and he was like, "Man, you're knocking it out of the park." And so we did a couple of another angles, same thing. And because now this was for an actual job, I was actually on set, but
Sure.
I showed up. I didn't do a rehearsal for that.
Yeah.
I didn't
Yeah.
audition for that. I just
Right.
got cast in it. So know your lines.
It's got to be. I can't even imagine. It's got to be because even at like just looking at it from a musician's point of view, right? You know the material, but if you're nervous, sometimes it can affect it, right? I can't even imagine having to recite lines. I would be, I listen. This brings me back to my fourth grade play when I had to recite a poem. I knew this poem backwards and forwards. I mean, it was ridiculous. I could recite it in my sleep. I got on stage. I saw 100 kids in front of me. I was done. I
Really? Nothing.
I got through like the second half. The first half I blanked out on. I just completely blanked out on. But
Oh,
it's that I don't know. But
yeah, it is. But I mean, again, that's it's not what you do
correct. Well,
at that
I
age.
have to say that if you've done it 100 times, it's got
Correct.
to
Yeah,
get
and
easier when you
and
do
if
it.
it's what you do, and if you're calling yourself an actor, well, an actor has to know his lines. That's number
Sure.
one.
Right.
That's what Al Pacino said that in the actor studio when they asked him like one important thing, and he says, "Know your lines," and the audience laughs, and he goes, "No, seriously." He's like,
It's yeah,
"It's not. I'm not being funny." I
right.
said, "Once you know your lines, you can play."
Mm.
Once you know your
Yes.
lines, then you can play
Yes.
because now you can deliver it any way you want because you know them so well.
Makes
A
sense.
little trick that I do to learn, if it's a clunk of, a block of dialogue that you're delivering at one chunk, which I have actually right here. I can't show it too much, but this is my script for the next thing, November 4th. I'm playing a judge
Nice.
at this from 1863. George making high jokes. All right, court is adjourned. So so yeah, I'm playing a judge in this thing, and but one thing that I do is I take a recorder and I do my lines on a recorder,
Mhm.
and then I learn the rhythm of that little monologue, and I start developing it, and then I re-record it again, and then I re-record it again, and I develop a rhythm with it. So this way, I'm delivering it not only that it makes sense in the context of the scene, obviously, because that's the most important thing, but also I can play with it. And if the director says, "Can you emphasize this a little bit more?" I'm like, "Absolutely," because I've
Right.
already have done, this is a song that I sing. It's like
Sure.
singing happy birthday. Sing happy birthday angry. Happy birthday to, I sing happy birthday sad. Happy birthday to, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know the song happy birthday so well, you can do it either way. So
True.
it's learning those things. So I use a recorder sometimes, it helps. And also, know the last line before the next the other character says something, right? So
Mhm.
like let's say you and I are doing a scene, I'm gonna know what your last line is for
Right.
sure,
Right.
because that's gonna give me my cue.
Mhm.
And then my last line, make sure that the next line, like I learn both lines. I want to learn your lines as well as my line, because I want to know what the whole scene is, the whole scene kind of how the whole scene plays. Some people will only learn their own lines and not know anybody else's lines. I'm like, well, no,
Sure.
I want to learn what's happening. I'm not going to know verbatim all of their lines, but I
Yeah.
want to know what they're saying. And when it's prompt, so I'm prompt to come in and to deliver my line. So that's always a really important thing to do as well.
Makes
I
sense.
thought I was going to get through two things. It's almost an hour and I'm only up to 8. So anyway, that's anxiety. Number 9, I'll go through these too fast. Bring necessary materials. This might include a headshot, resume, sheet music, or any necessary materials for your audition. Make sure you are fully equipped to give your best performance. So that's important because you should always bring a headshot and resume. I know a lot of people say, well, you have it on file or it's electronic or whatever. Just have one. Just have a bunch of them in your. Nobody really takes them anymore, but
Right.
if they do, there's some of the older casting directors. They're gonna want a headshot because that's how they've been doing it for the last 50 years, and
Mhm.
they're gonna continue that, right? Number 10, um, leave a lasting impression. Thank everyone involved as you leave, regardless of how well you think you did. The audition experience doesn't end when you stop performing. A gracious exit can be just as memorable as your audition itself. Remember, each audition is not only a chance to get a particular role, but also an opportunity to network and improve your craft. Um, so, when leaving, when you're done with your audition, say thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity and leave. Don't ask when this is gonna start shooting. Don't ask do I call to find out. I've seen it all.
Mm.
I've been in the room where you see that where you hear people saying, "Oh yeah, I saw this person in another thing, man. So I'm a really big fan. I hope I get to do this. It'll be a lot of fun. I really, really feel like the good." And you already know in their head this person is going to be too talkative.
Yeah.
Say thank you and goodbye. I did that once, and if they want you to stay, they're going to call you back. And I did
Right.
that one where I was leaving. I was like, "Oh, thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity. Have a great day." I was like, "Wait, John, can you come here for a second?" And I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Yeah, could you do me a favor and stay and read with a couple of other people?"
Ah,
I was like, "Oh
nice.
yeah, yeah, sure." So I stayed and I read my role that I had auditioned for with some other
Mhm.
women, and I did that, and it went really well. I didn't get that, but still, why would you ask me to stay and read, and then I don't get? No, I'm just kidding. I did get it, but I always think about like if they ask you to read and then you don't get it, and you're like,
Yeah.
why did they? I was there for 6 months reading. They just used me. Just kidding. So I have a couple audition tips. Those were tips for auditioning in the room, right?
Mhm.
These are overall more broad tips.
Mhm.
They're how to just become a better auditioner, right?
Okay.
Not the audition process of what to do when you're in the room and and going to an actual specific, right? So that's one of the things that at JHS Talent that I think of is when I'm writing these things, I want to think specifically on the moment. The
Yes.
audition process when you're going is one thing, but how to prepare for an audition when you don't have any auditions, you still have to do that.
That's right.
You still have to do that. So um, learning how to audition for a role, whether it's for theater, film, or television, is a multifaceted process. Here are 10 essential items or components you'll need. So script material is the first thing, right? Before you audition, you'll need a script. You'll need the script, audition materials, which typically includes sides, which I talked about, and possibly a monologue, right? So find a script that you like. Find an actual film that you like, a TV show that you like. You can go online and on Amazon, and you can buy scripts for a bunch of TV shows.
Mhm.
You can literally buy. A friend of mine just bought. He has one. Brian Pierce from JHS Talent. Also, he bought a script for Simon, Simon and Simon.
Simon and Simon.
Yeah, for that show.
The cop there, it was like a cop show or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. If we vote for Simon, no, no, it's not Simon and Simon. Spencer for Hire.
Oh, Spencer.
Hey,
I
Spencer.
used to like that show actually.
Yeah, great show. So he actually bought a script on Amazon, and then we watched the episode, and we were going through the script. And
Wow.
you get to see all the different changes that they made during the shot.
Interesting.
They cut out a whole section. We were laughing about it. This whole section that you needed to have to get to the end. They
Right.
just cut it out, and then it just got to the end. We were like, boy, how did she find out that he's the guy? Because they just went to the courthouse. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense. So it was really, really interesting to see the actual script and follow
Wow.
along. Find a script that you can work on, and then start working on it. Character research. Research
Mhm.
characters. Headshot and resume. Make sure you always have those ready.
Right.
Acting techniques, whether you're doing whether you're Meisner, or you're doing a actor studio, whatever type of system you're doing, whether it's the British technique, whatever the technique is, find a technique,
Mhm.
find something that works for you, right? The example is always that I talk about is the Dustin Hoffman to like Dustin Hoffman did Strasbourg, right? Lee
Right.
Strasberg technique, right? Which is what Al Pacino and De Niro. So they did Strasbourg, and then there's the British technique, which is Laurence Olivier and people from what's his name, Clarice
Anthony Hopkins.
Hopkins, right? So those guys, they all do the British, right? So the difference is that the Meisner and Strasbourg techniques are basically internal. You really become the pain. You dive in, you develop this avatar, and then you jump into this thing, right? And you take it out. And in the British technique is much more word oriented, where the script, you pull the character from the script. The script will give you the character because it's written in there. Whoever wrote it had a character in mind. So why are you creating it when you can develop it from the written word, right? So, and that's the British technique, which is what I use. So, an example is Dustin Hoffman and Laurence Olivier in Marathon Man. It's a famous story, which I'll tell, and other actors are probably like, "Yeah, I know this story already, John. Everybody knows this story." But if you're new to the industry, you may not know the story, right? But in the scene, Marathon Man, Dustin Hoffman has to be. He had just came from a run. He's running, right? He's a marathon runner, right? So he's supposed to had just come from a run. So his technique, because he's Meisner and he's Strongberg and it's really in there. He literally went for a run, and he ran into set out of breath when he was actually sweating and actually out of breath. And then Laurence Olivier just looked at him and said, "Why don't you just pretend you're tired?" Because that is what you would do.
Right.
Yeah, you just throw a little water in your face and you just pretend you're tired. Why do you have to really be tired? Those are the two different techniques, right? One may work for you, you may want to run, you may really want to get in there and do that, right? And or you may not want to do that. So it's important to have a technique to study. This is not easy. Being an actor is hard. Like, people don't realize when you have all the cameras around you and you have to convince someone that this is actually happening, and you have to consistently do the same scene over and over again until they can capture it from all different angles. It's hard to maintain that same level of energy when I'm doing a scene like this and the camera's behind me, and then they turn the camera around to capture mine. Now I got to keep the same energy. Then they put the camera over here to catch both of us. Now I got to get the same energy, and it's really difficult to keep the same energy and the same. Basically, a lot of it has to do with with phrasing, and a lot of it has to do with inflections and how you end the sentence. Where if you're doing a line and you say, well, I don't know if I'm going to go there or not, because you're going down, right? But you
Yeah.
can't do that, and you have to keep your voice always consistently. So I don't know if I'm going to do that or not, or not, or not. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. I don't know if I'm going to do that or not. There's all these different ways that you can actually do the end of a line, and it's really a technique. It really these Oscar winners are not Oscar winners because they got lucky. Meryl Streep and Denzel Washington and Al Pacino and all those guys, they study their
Yeah.
asses off on this
Right.
thing. They are obsessed with it. Tom Hanks and Tom Cruise and Tom the cat, all those Toms. They're just really, really obsessed with the actual art, the techniques, the science behind delivering a meaningful and believable performance.
Do filmmakers like have a preference of which type of actor or which technique an actor is using?
Not really. They won't even care. I
Okay.
mean, generally they want to, get the role. It's, to, direct delivery has to be consistent.
Yes.
Exactly. Over and over. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Edward knows. It is over and over again. You know, a story, and I'm not going to say the director because he was kind of mean to an actor, but he's talking about two actors that he's working with, right? And he's telling one actor, he's saying, okay, so in this scene, I want you to come in, sit down, have a conversation here, and then you're going to walk out that door. And the guy goes, okay, I wrote you a 75-page essay on my character and the backstory of my character. I want you to read it so you can understand where I'm coming from with this character, okay? And then the director's like, okay, all right. He goes, and the next day, he's like, did you read it? He's like, yeah, I read it. All right, I want you to walk in here. I want you to sit here. I want you to have a conversation here, and then I want you to go out that door. Okay, cool. And the other actor comes in and tells him the same thing. Walk here, sit down, and you're gonna have a conversation with him, and you're gonna walk out that door. Okay, great. He goes, you need anything else? No, I'll see you tomorrow. The guy just comes out, and he goes, okay, action. Okay, walk in here. You're gonna say, it doesn't matter.
Okay.
It doesn't matter. One guy wrote a 75-page essay on his character. The other guy just came in and goes, you need anything else? Yeah, all right, I'll do that.
Same thing.
See you tomorrow.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So it really is the approach.
Okay.
But what's important is that you did some work in the back, that you have that confidence that you can come to the table and deliver whichever way is going to work for you. Some actors are not don't need that much preparation.
Mm-hmm.
The famous thing with what's his name? I know we're over an hour now, but we talking. What's his name? We were just talking about Marlon Brando. Was he would always forget lines. So there's pictures of with the lines taped onto Robert Duvall's chest
Right.
in The Godfather, and he's got them taped on his chest, and then another actor has them taped on his shoulder. So he's like, and he's telling us, just and he's looking at the lines. Just make sure you know what he's looking at the line.
That's wild.
Yeah, right now, of course, he was older and he was always difficult. But this is a guy who did, Streetcar Named Desire on stage
Exactly.
for like years before we ever saw it in the theater. You know what I mean? This was like a genius guy. So, all right, let me go quickly on this, and then we're gonna wrap up. So we did acting techniques, audition attire. Always, I talked about that earlier, but always have a lot of different options in your closet. There people have them there. That's my audition sweater. This is my audition shirt. This is my audition. I look good in this clothes, and that could always be like standalone. That's what you're gonna use. So have audition attire. Your voice and your diction, right? So make sure that you're clear and articulate when you're in, not just delivering your lines, but when you're also talking and receiving your notes. Don't go like, oh, okay, yeah, all right, okay, that makes sense. No. Be like, oh, okay, great, all right, thank you, I appreciate that. stay with the same consistency and the strength in your voice,
Right.
during anything that you're doing. um, Rehearsal space. So find always a quiet space. It's difficult sometimes when you're auditioning, and or when you have to do an audition and the line is like, "I'm gonna kill you, you son of a," and you're doing this in your house. So the cops will come like, yeah, we heard of disturbance here, and that's happened so many times. It never happened to me except for the superintendent once heard, and he thought that Pamela and I were fighting, my wife, and it had nothing to do with that. That's the excuse I use. Anyway, but I heard her also call you John and say you're an asshole. That was in the script, sir.
I hear that every day.
Yeah, it's a famous line, buddy. Recording equipment. We talked a little bit about this at the start of this. It's become a thing. Make sure you have good lighting. You have a good back. This right here, I could do auditions right here. I don't have to move if I'm doing auditions. I don't do those anymore. But if I had to, I would do them right here. Feedback and coaching. Always make sure that you're receiving it well and that you are able to take it, because you do have to have some sort of a thick skin, because if you deliver something that the director and is sort of like not going to be as nice, not all directors are nice, right? Some of them are going to be like, all right, what was that? No, come on, do it the way we did it. You know what I mean? You may get that. And sometimes that can cave an actor in.
Yeah.
You have to be able strong enough to be like, oh, okay, sorry, no problem, and then take the note and keep moving forward. And then mental preparation. That's techniques for the breathing exercises that we talked about, visualization. Be mindful of the audition day. Be respectful of the day. Make your day also be part of the audition. So what I used to do is, and this, George, because you used to work in Manhattan, I would go do auditions, and then I would go see George because he worked not too far from our places. So I'd just call him up, and we just go get lunch around the corner somewhere. And I did that. How many times did I do that? I did that all the time, because I was in that area. Like I said, you worked around 30 something, if I remember correctly,
36th Street.
Yeah, 36th Street. So I was always around 38th and stuff, doing auditions. So I make a day of it. Okay, I'm going to go on my audition, then I'm going to go see George, and then I'm going to go here, I'm going to go there, and kind of make a full day of it, right? And I will end with being mentally prepared will help you focus and perform at your best. Armed with these items, you'll be well prepared to give your audition your best shot. Good luck. And that's really what we're all asking here, right? It's just giving everyone the best shot that they can possibly have within this industry. That's all you can ask for. Give yourself a chance. If you've never done this before and you're interested in it, you can always schedule an appointment with me. Again, go to the website. Because I've been bombarded with, I had to put a calendar in, which is okay. It's actually given my life a lot more control. If you go to jhstalentmanagement.com and you schedule an available slot, we can sit down and talk either by phone, or we can do it just like this, through visualization. And we'll see if you're on the path, and if you want to do something like this. It's really important to know that. That's all I got. I want to just quickly show off our moving background now that we can actually do, which
nice, very nice. I like it.
Just created that. So that kind of goes back and forth, I believe. I think that's what happens, right? Anyway, so I want to thank everybody for tuning in. One of the things that I was gonna finish with Coach, I'm a little disappointed in you've been dressing with your sweaters. Your sweater has a zipper. Oh God. Go up. So anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We appreciate you so much. George, thank you so much for indulging on this episode. It was a lot of fun.
Your wisdom, Godfather.
Thank you. Kill him. Make him an offer he can't refuse. Yeah, but we will actually be back next week. We have some guests coming on in November, which we're excited about. And we have a thing that we're doing for 2024 that George and I are super psyched about. And the way it's going to be an amazing, this is really for you guys, for people that are really interested in entertainment and the industry. We've met some incredible people here, and we're going to be doing something next year that's going to really be fantastic, and we're really excited about it. So,
John's gonna do naked pole dancing live.
yeah, this time is live. Normally I do it underground, but this is going to be actually live. The pole is just a pencil because I'm short. All right, folks. Want to thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate y'all. See you all next week. For George Batista, I'm John Henry Soto. All of us here at Counterparts. Thank you. God bless. And as always, peace.
Peace.